Welcome to the Rams postgame show. My name is Victor Corona, aka Vic the Producer, and joining me from his house, actually, he made it home, guys. He made it home safely from Green Bay and snowy Wisconsin. Gilbert, how are you doing? How was your trip to Wisconsin, Green Bay, Wisconsin? Uh, tell us, guys. Tell us what's been your adventure the
Yeah,
last 24 hours.
yeah. Victor, I did not come back as a hipster from Green Bay wearing this beanie. I just kind of want to stay in the mood because we didn't have a live post game show from, the Rams losing 24-12 to the Packers, officially being eliminated from the playoff contention. So that's a bummer for Rams fans and the viewers and listeners of House of Horns. But I just kind of want to keep the mood. Maybe they want to forget already. But also I pretty much, arrived from LAX to my house like around 2:20 p.m. Pacific time. Then we had to talk to Sean McVay on Zoom at 2:30. So you talk to Sean McVay, news comes out, you got to write a story. So I haven't really got a chance to, unwind here. So, that's why I couldn't do post game show because you go from like writing your story on a primetime game at midnight. You're trying to beat the snow. We couldn't beat the snow, so you see all the snow coming down on Lambeau Field, which is pretty nice. Like, it's a grind, and maybe I should just say it's a bitch to get up there. It's hard to get up there, but to see the snowfall, it didn't happen during the game. I thought that was worth it. But then, like, you have to drive very slowly on the snow, so it took me forever to get to my hotel in Milwaukee. Uh, got 90 minutes of sleep when I finally got home or to the hotel like at around 3:30 a.m. I get up at 6 or 5:30 to leave and get to the airport in Chicago O'Hare. So it starts snowing in Milwaukee too. So I'm just trying to beat it. Like I can't handle this. So it was a grind, but it was cool. I even stopped to get gas in Chicago, and it was like $3 per gallon. It was awesome to see. So just an adventure overall, and sorry to make people wait here for the post game show to talk some Rams here. But I think my stories were probably better than the game anyway. So who cares? I'm rambling here, Victor. But hopefully, I didn't make people wait too long.
Yeah, we're just glad you didn't go through that situation that we see in Cool Runnings, the movie. So honestly, I really liked your videos that you posted from Green Bay. I mean, it's a great place to go visit, but as you said, it's a grind, especially on a Monday night.
Ugh.
But we got some football to get to,
Yeah.
Gilbert. I'm glad you got that one off your bucket list there and got to cover a game out there. So
Well, Victor,
let's
but I just did the math actually. I got 24. Actually, no, 23 out of 32 stadiums. It would be 24 in the Seattle game in a couple of weeks. So I'm getting closer to all 32 stadiums.
There you go, man. Not bad. How long have you been covering the NFL now? For about 4 or 5 years now.
Like the
Is that right?
traveling wise, where I'm regular, yeah, like 5 years.
Yes.
But I've been kind of going back from the Raider days, like 7 seasons, and that was kind of seldomly. But I
Right.
kind of started getting those stadiums going. But this one's pretty nice, man. And before I move on, you know, maybe because I'm tougher than I thought, but maybe because also I wasn't outside a lot, but I didn't think the snow and the wind chill was that bad. I think actually the snow helps out when it's falling down. It's not too bad. But when we got to Lambeau Field without the snow and just straight wind chill to your face, that was pretty bad. But I think for the most part, I handled it pretty well.
That's nice. I know. Now we get to the football part here, but before we do, we have some promotions going on. Let the people know while I kind of model some of these shirts that we got from Homage, Gilbert.
Yeah, this is all you, Victor. Like we mentioned, we have a collab with Homage. This is one of the shirts here because it's finally the week of Broncos versus Rams, Christmas Day. Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson,
They're
Baker
limited.
Mayfield, and then you got SpongeBob and Patrick Star there on that shirt. And we found a winner on the giveaway, and I wish more people participated. I know it was kind of a family bundle, and you needed more people involved. But shout out to Juan for getting that shirt and hoodies from Homage. So shout out to Homage. But if you want more Rams gear, there's a whole collection on Homage. You see the link right there. Just bookmark that or just click the link in the description. We also have a link for NFL. And again, when you purchase through this link, you help out the compas right here. We're trying to get to the Super Bowl in Arizona. and just have a better show, a good production here. I know, Victor, you're doing all you can, but
Yes.
anything will help to get this show better and keep elevating. And speaking of elevating, we're getting closer to 500 subscriptions. We need those 500 subs. So again, like Dan Dago says, be a friend, tell a friend, get spread the word. The House of Horns has you covered. I know it's a rough season, 4-10. The Rams are out of the playoffs, but you look to the future, and I know there's more injuries. We're gonna get into it, but we have you covered here with all the videos, locker room access, analysis, and the video for the preview show, Packers Rams. Well, I really like the numbers on that one and the comments and the engagement. So keep it going. Again, we're collabing with Homage. Click on the link, but also subscribe to House of Horns.
Yeah, and we gave away that Aaron Donald blisters shirt that was from Homage. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and we had a couple of one of the subscribers. He really enjoyed it. So we're glad to help out and also give away some merchandise while getting some more subscribers on here. So let's get to the football aspect of it. Give us your takeaways from the Rams 24-12 loss,
Yeah,
Gilberto.
it kind of felt like what the Raider game was supposed to end like, right? Like it was a very clunky game. One team has control of the game, one team can't just find the offense, and Baker Magic occurred against the Raiders. But with the Packers, it didn't work out, but they had the opportunity. It's like when they were down 24-6. I kind of was starting writing my story thinking it's over, uh, and then I kept just staring at Sean McVay. Like he had like one. I think I want to say I'm not sure actually, but maybe Sean McVay's a lefty, but he had his right hand in his pocket to keep it warm, and it was holding the play sheet on the left. He kept staring at it, just trying to figure out some way to get this offense going in 15-degree weather with a 7-degree wind chill. But every time he's looking down at the sheet, he looks back up at the field. Aaron Rodgers is going up the field with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, and the defense couldn't really do much against that at least complementary football, which has been a struggle for the Rams. But then they scored quickly after it was 24-6, and they missed a field goal, or I mean, the extra point for Matt Gay. It could have been 24-13, but 24-12. It felt like there's gonna be some Baker magic. Okay, like what's the best way to top what happened with the Raiders playing at Lambeau Field in the cold against a hot Aaron Rodgers? What a better way to top what you did for an encore performance of Baker Mayfield? He throws an interception, but then Jalen Ramsey has that kind of that weird strip fumble on Aaron Jones, and they still had an opportunity. But after that, it just nothing ever happened, and that was pretty much the game. That wild sequence where there was an interception to the fumble to Baker getting the ball again, nothing happened. So it was a very kind of clunky game, and everybody just kind of expecting some Baker magic because it happened once. And then by the end, it was kind of like, oh, they're back to reality. Like we all knew for weeks this team won't make the playoffs. It became official with the loss.
Yeah, and I mean, you kept waiting for, like, as you talked about, for that Baker magic, and it never showed up. It just tells you how the NFL is, especially when you're going up against a Green Bay Packer team that was on a bye, coming off a bye, I should say, and they're well rested and they're playing at home. Frigid conditions. You have a team from LA traveling to Green Bay, Wisconsin. They're going up against those elements, and it finally did them in there. At least with the Raider game, it was at home. It was on short rest there. So, yeah, it was what we expected in terms of, how this game would probably have matched up, especially with all the injuries. But you still have to give the Rams credit. They hung in there. The defense did as much as they could, without Aaron Donald. You saw some good things from some of the young players on defense, on the defensive line. Ramsey with the strip, Taylor Rapp with the interception. So, and Cam Akers, man. I know we keep asking for the rookie Kyron Williams,
Oh,
but Cam Akers is like, I'm not going anywhere, guys.
I keep trying to like talk to people about what's going on with Kyron Williams because they actually gave him a couple carries really early. I'm like, oh, okay, this could be a Kyron Williams game, and then it just became a Cam Akers game. And Victor, like he had a good game. Like he was like the one bright spot. I think he had 100 total yards. But then you
Yes.
look at the final total yards for the offense, it was 156. So he got pretty much most of it on his own. And that was a season low. Like they got worse. And then the offensive line returned to earth as well. Like, you know, 9 quarterback hits on Baker, 5 sacks. Preston Smith was having a field day out there. So uh, as soon as Brian Allen went down, like it became the flashbacks of the first 12 games, like which is a lot of games. Like that one game against the Raiders was kind of like a moment of just forgetting your struggles, and they went back, like I mentioned in my story, to reality. Uh, and the weird thing about it too, Victor, like we mentioned no Baker magic. Aaron Rodgers didn't really do much. There wasn't much
No,
magic. I know he had the touchdown pass
it was
to
all on the
Aaron
running
Jones,
game.
and they eat, but
That's
even the running game didn't have like a massive day. It was just kind of like moving up the field slowly. Bobby Wagner admitted to you, say, "Hey, we weren't on it in terms of red zone defense. They kind of were at first, but I think, like you mentioned, the injuries started getting to them. Where like they're just moving up the field and just doing enough to get out of the game, and like, all right, go with 6-8 for them, and they're not even a good team. Jalen Ramsey actually shut down Christian Watson, so it was just a weird game how they did it because the rushing attack wasn't that great, but AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones did enough just to kind of have a whatever game for Aaron Rodgers. Everything about it just felt weird to me.
Yeah, and then transitioning over as you talked about injuries, what injury updates do you have for us from, I guess the what is it, the Monday press conference with Sean McVay today?
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say that I think the interior defensive line finally felt it without Aaron Donald, Ashawn Robinson, Marquise Copeland. Like Greg Gaines can't do it all. I know he's your boy,
Yeah,
Victor, but
yeah,
that's why that running it was kind of moving on them, but not too much. But yeah, there's more to the list, and like I mentioned, I'll start with Brian Allen, the center. He left on the second play of the game, and that's when it just started becoming an uphill battle.
yeah,
Which, by the way, when I spoke to the next guy in the locker room, just to kind of summarize what the season has meant from going from the Super Bowl to the being eliminated from the playoffs, he's like, it was an uphill battle from the start. Like I just remember those words. Like it just never got going, and that kind of summarizes Brian Allen's season. I know he's had injuries throughout his career, which sucks for him because when he's on the field, he's really good. People love him. Good communicator, good player. Really makes a difference in the running game, but he just can't stay healthy. And you're probably gonna ask yourself at the end of the year, the Rams, like, do you want to keep doing this with Brian Allen? Like he's good. It doesn't hurt your cap. He's not gonna cost a lot, but like he just can't stay on the field. And to go down in the second play with a calf strain, he's out for the whole year now, which at this point doesn't really matter. But you have kind of 3 more games where if you're Baker Mayfield, you're trying to audition for other teams and you don't have your center. That hurts, man. Like you're being
yeah,
rushed up. And I know Baker Mayfield was trying so hard not to turn over the ball, but he couldn't even like just throw the ball away. Like when you're just playing smart and fast, you just throw it away. You're fine. You couldn't really do that. The pressure kept coming to him. But then you go to Coleman Shelton at center. That just starts a whole domino effect of shuffling. Odi Abushi, who hasn't played in a while, plays right guard. Uh, for some reason, McVay doesn't like Abushi because every time Abushi goes into the lineup,
yeah,
the next day we ask him, is he going to be there? He's like, I don't know. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. But you're running out of bodies. And then the other one that's pretty big is Ben Skoranek, the wide receiver, do it all wide receiver. He played fullback earlier this year, played special teams, develop into a reliable target. Like I remember to start the year, I was like, I haven't seen much from Ben Skoranek. I didn't see it last.
yeah.
People, even Rams fans have admitted like Ben Skoranek didn't do much as a rookie. Why is he beloved on this team from Sean McVay? Well, we found out this year. He does a lot. So for him to also have a calf strain to be out for the rest of the year will be tough. Again, they're not going to the playoffs, but that means more targets for Tutu Atwell, which I want to see more from him. He's kind of been quiet. Van Jefferson too. Like, I feel like Van Jefferson's due for a game where he gets 100 yards receiving. He just doesn't really get that for some reason. Brandon Powell's going to step up. Maybe Lance McCutcheon. I don't know what happened to him. But Ben Skoranek was big. He was one of the starters for the 11 personnel here with 3 receivers. And that's tough because I know Sean McVay is a fan of both of those guys.
Yeah, it'll be interesting as going with Brian Allen, just to see what happens. I would assume in the offseason that's going to be their number one priority is actually putting some money into that offensive line, whether it's through the draft or in free agency. And so it'll be interesting if they bring back Brian Allen and then Ben Skoranek. He's been the guy, after every all the injuries happen with Cooper Cup and what's his name? Why am I blanking on his name? Allen
Yeah.
Robinson. Yeah, Allen Robinson. So It gives the young guys a more of a chance here as a for the final 3 games. Tutu Atwell, McCutcheon, a lot of the young guys. Van Jefferson. I'll say this, and this has nothing to do with the injuries. Van Jefferson, his some of his routes were really good. He was getting open. Baker Mayfield just didn't have any time.
Mm.
But transit unless you have any more
No,
injuries, I can
that's a good
transition.
point because it
Yeah,
feels like Van Jefferson pops, but then every time you look at the stat sheet, like 3 catches for 40 yards, I feel like. I
yeah,
forgot what it was this week. Actually, it was below because Cam Akers led the team in receiving yards with 35 yards,
yes,
so but it
yeah.
felt like Van does more. So at least when you're watching the tape, he shows he pops, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, and then moving over to transitioning over, talking about Maker Bakefield, as we talked about, he struggled. A lot of it wasn't his fault. Like we talked about, once you lose your center, on the second snap of the game, it kind of throws everything off. McVay tried using him on rollouts and stuff like that just to try to get him some time. But Green Bay was on it. Give credit to them. Mayfield's finished 11 of 21 for 111 yards, 1 touchdown, the touchdown to Tyler Higbee, and then he also had an interception. He could have had like 3 or 4. I sent you a link a couple of days ago where Jerry Alexander said they were
Yeah.
expecting to get 6 interceptions in this game. So he was a bit wobbly, rightfully so, with your offensive line not being as good. So I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on Baker Mayfield and his magic kind of not being there against the
Yeah.
Packers.
It kind of felt like an interception was due to come early, and I think there was a couple drops or, a throw too high here for a Packers defender to try to get it. And then so when they finally got him, I want to say maybe late in the third quarter, I was like, okay, finally, because you could tell it was coming. There was a lot of pressure, and that's just a recipe for disaster. And then he also had a fumble, right? And then Rob Havenstein recovered it, so it was like the bill was due, and he had an interception. But luckily, it didn't hurt him too much because that was the moment where like, okay, they're gonna try to rally here, and then he throws an interception. Like, okay, it's over. And Jalen
Yeah,
Ramsey comes back 2 plays later and gets that with that fumble on Aaron Jones. And there was some debate I saw that where people were saying, why not blow the whistle dead? Why are you still, you know, calling it alive? I think it's kind of borderline for me. But it was they were fighting for a while, and eventually you got to let the play go, or at least you got to decide continue to let the play go or call it dead. I think for me it was enough to keep it going. He pulled it out. So you kind of erased the interception, but for Baker Mayfield, you saw the flashes were like the quick touchdown drive to Higbee. Like that was great. You saw that in the fourth quarter of the Raider game. Uh, a couple in the early part of the game, like he had a couple third and longs. He was completing them to Van Jefferson, and I think even two out. Well, like, okay, like he could make throws on third down. That's key for a player. He does better on these rollouts, like you mentioned, and part of it too, like maybe Sean McVay didn't cut him loose as much because there's a lot of pressure and that leads to turnovers. So I know some people weren't happy with the play calling for Sean McVay, and I'm sure that's fair criticism too, especially at this point in the season when you're 4-9 at that point at least. Why not just cut
yeah,
it loose and let Baker try to do something there? But it's just tough because Sean McVay's trying to evaluate the young guys and who he has on his team, but everybody keeps getting hurt. Like there's a bunch of
yeah,
guys coming in who have no shot probably on being on this roster. And the same thing for Baker Mayfield. He's trying to audition. Like, I think Matthew Stafford went on his wife's podcast and said that he's not going to retire. So all signs point to Stafford. This is his team. He's going to be back next year unless something happens with his injury that we don't know of. We'll see. But Baker Mayfield might not have a future here unless Baker's like, hey, I want to have one more year under this system with working with McVay and Stafford. I'll be a backup. It's okay. We never know with an older veteran quarterback in Stafford, you might have a shot to get onto the field. So it's tough for Baker because he wants to just showcase what he could do, but he has that wild Thursday night game. But for the rest of the year, without no Brian Allen, your down receiver, it's going to be a struggle. I know the Broncos are really bad offensively, but they're still a good
but
defense too.
their defense, yeah. Yeah, that defense is legit. I mean, they're a top 5, 10 defense in the league. I mean, they're that young defensive coordinator is probably going to get a job soon. And everybody's running that Big Fangio defense, and he's one of those. He's from that tree as well. So, But yeah, talking about Baker, and I think Sean McVay is also trying to protect him as well because he wants him to do well, even if he's not with the Rams. But as you talked about, it'll be interesting to see where Baker goes after the season, especially as you talked about that. Matthew Stafford was on his wife's podcast, and he said he's coming back. So I'm sure Ram fans are happy about that to hear that because there's been a lot of speculation about his injury, and so it's good to hear some positive news in terms of the Rams going into next season. And talking about a positive spot here, Cam Akers, man, combined for 100 yards, as you talked about, 12 carries for 65 yards and 3 catches for 35 yards. The guy won't go away, man. And, as much as he tried to leave and then they brought him back, it's been and you wrote about it. Can you tell us, as much as you can, what you wrote about him today?
Yeah, check it out on the Orange County Register because he gave me a pretty good quote because they're going now from like, okay, the playoff hopes are dead, and some of the players are actually using that Raider game and riding around it. Okay, you win out, you never know what could happen. You might make the playoffs, and that was motivation for them to kind of continue to fight. Now you don't have that aspect. So how do you continue to for the next 3 games? Obviously, you're playing for jobs and you want to put good tape out there. So maybe you shouldn't, complain about lack of motivation. But Cam Akers wants to play spoiler, and he had a good quote here. I don't know if I could say it, but my newspaper didn't want me to say it, so they went with urinate. But I'll say the quote here on House of Horns. He said, "We want to piss in people's coffee or cornflakes." He gave people an option. You want me to piss in your coffee or cornflakes? I thought that was a funny quote. But then he also said that he wants to play the last 3 games like it's a championship game for them. They want to go out strong. That's what Bobby Wagner talks about all the time, like just being in the moment, staying in the present. He didn't want to reflect when we spoke to him. Rob Havenstein didn't want to reflect either. Like they got 3 games ago. Why the hell are we trying to talk about summarizing the season, which is kind of like easy for us reporters to do because like they went from the Super Bowl to being eliminated, but there's 3 games for them in their mind. So they want to play spoiler. But the thing that me and the other Browns beat reporters were talking about with Cam Akers, like it's weird because like he's still on this team. Like he was on a verge of a breakup. Who knows about the he said, I guess both sides. Like, did he want to be there? Did he not want to be there? Like, and then like he's on this team contributing when like guys like Justin Hollins are gone, Daryl Henderson's gone, Terrell Lewis. Like, why is Cam Akers surviving this team when he's the one that got into a dispute with the head coach? And every time you talk about, or every time you ask Sean McVay why those guys got let go, he says it's all about the player first. We want those guys to succeed and get opportunities elsewhere. That never occurred with, well, I guess it tried to with Cam Akers. It wasn't about giving him an opportunity. It was like, get out of here kind of thing, right? Uh,
Right.
so maybe you could kind of let me know if I'm on to something here. Maybe it's kind of a way to have him just take the hits for the rest of the season, use them up because maybe he has no future. And
Yeah.
why risk Kyrie Williams getting hurt? Your rookie who already has gotten hurt twice, Victor, have him be fresh for the offseason and maybe give him an option to be the lead back for next year and just end the season with Cam Akers just doing what he can to get out of here and call it quits here for the season. So I don't know. That's what I'm thinking here. Or he's just really producing and he's auditioning for himself and for other teams. But it's kind of a weird, but also a good thing for Cam Akers that he's still showing the flashes. But it's kind of like, is he part of the team? I don't know.
Yeah, I actually like your analysis there in terms of maybe he's a punching bag for the rest of the season. We've seen it with running backs in the past where kind of like we saw with Le'Veon Bell and the Steelers where they were like, well, we know we're just gonna use you up and then you can go somewhere else and then but yeah, I can really see that happening and maybe they cut ties after the season once they used them up and Kyron Williams becomes their future. But and then one more thing, I thought it was really interesting. I really liked the quote that he gave you because the last 2 games are against Seattle and the Chargers,
Yeah.
who are both trying to get into the playoffs, and like that's good motivation as you try to wrap up your season. Is like we kept these teams from going to the playoffs, and we'll use that as a badge of honor as we move into the off season.
Yeah, that's those definitely decent matchups. The LA robbery with the Chargers like that. I'm sure they don't want to see them do well. So if they're in the midst of a wild card race here, and maybe the Dolphins and the Patriots and the Jets all win that weekend, the Chargers don't, and they're out of it. So a lot of football still left to go, but that game's only 2 weeks away. So and then the Seahawks one, that's a divisional rival. You want to definitely knock them out. And they're going backwards, but maybe they find a win or two, and then that game kind of counts for something to end the year.
Yeah, one of the you talked about Bobby Wagner earlier, and I kind of wanted to make sure that I gave some. We talked about the Rams defense. I know their run defense struggled against the Packers here, but what were you? What was there anything that stood out for you from the defense?
It was tough. Like maybe a couple of moments like where I keep saying, okay, Michael Hoy is a good investment. I know he's still learning out there, but he just has a high motor. He plays fast. Like there was one point where like it wasn't his fault, but he was dealing with his guy on the edge, and the play goes a different way, and he just pushes his guy off when he's sprinting down the field to make the tackle. So you kind of like the effort there. He's gonna have to kind of work with his body to slim down a little bit from being the interior guy to the edge. I don't know if he could be your starter, but when he's producing, like he might be a good number three guy. You find somebody who's like a proven player, then you get a rotation going. That's what the best defensive fronts do. They're loaded and they have depth, and he could be a piece there. And I keep seeing it. And Victor, you brought up Greg Gaines last week, so I kept asking about him. Raheem Morris raved about Greg Gaines. Like he said, when Aaron Donald's in there, actually, I have some good stories about Greg Gaines. I know it's not part of the game, but uh, Raheem Morris said like when Aaron Donald's in there, he's the meat and potatoes. Like he's the one helping Aaron Donald get free to be the star. And then I caught up with Greg Gaines in the locker room, and he's like it's weird because like you expect when there's like a three-time defensive player of the year not on the field to like have no positives, right? Like if he's not out there, like it's gonna hurt you. He's like, you know what? We actually get to run a regular defense. Like we're not focused on freeing up this one guy here and trying to fight the triple teams that he gets. And it's all about making Aaron go and get free. And he's like, the other thing about it too, like when Aaron Donald's on the field, they're throwing the ball quick releases, so you can't get opportunities to rush the passer. He's like, I'm getting opportunities now. I'm getting to rush the passer now because they're not afraid of Aaron Donald being there. So it's kind of a weird effect for Greg Gaines, and he's finally getting to show off what he could do when he's not the assist man or the dirty work for Aaron Donald. But it's good that he gets kind of love both ways. He could show it as a pass rusher and as a dirty work guy. So uh, he's definitely a guy there. He's still pretty young. I forget his contract. He might be coming up soon. I gotta figure that one out. But they have guys on this defense. It's just like you got to build more depth, more future, and I want to see more from the defensive backs, not the
Yeah,
not the Diamondbacks, right?
yeah,
But the Kobe Durant kind of has been struggling. Darion Kennedy can't really get on the field. Uh, you know, some of those guys I wanted to see more, but this defense, is still, starts and ends with at least for now, Bobby Wagner and Jalen Ramsey. And Ramsey had a good game against Christian Watson, and maybe that's why he
yeah,
was in a good mood talking to the reporter. He talked to me and he told me it was weird that they got eliminated from playoffs contention because they've always had winning seasons with the
right.
Rams. But he shut down the rookie, and that was a good little comeback for him. And that was sometimes that's the best you could do. I know it's not the star player Devontae Adams, but you got to get those wins in. And for Christian Watson to be shadowed by a good player like that, that shows you how much respect you have in this league.
Yeah, and I was gonna say Michael Hoyt got his own graphic package on
Oh yeah,
ESPN.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then great games, man. Like you just love seeing that guy out there. He just brings the energy. Uh, Jalen Ramsey, it was good to see. He had like really good. He was really good on run defense. He created that fumble and recovered it. He was really hyped for that. Even on there was one run by AJ Dillon where he just stood there. He took he took the run and he stopped them there. Like it was really good to see. So I know he has struggle in coverage, and
Yeah.
as they talked about, he took out, as you talked about, sorry, he took Christian Watson out of the game. So Yeah, there was some good highlights. Yes, the young corners struggled. Even Troy Hill,
Yeah.
all of them, with some terrible um, and badly timed penalties. For some PIs there. But in terms of the positives, those were the guys that stood out up front, and then Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner. I know we talked about him on the preview being the heart and soul. I think he kind of struggled. He didn't have much of an impact in this game, but that wasn't on him. But it was good to see some of these guys that we continue to talk about and who they're evaluating for the future to see, especially like I said, Michael Hoyt and Great Gaines. But I wanted to get your final thoughts, unless there's something else we didn't cover from this game, or something else you want to go over in terms of the Rams and Packers game.
Not really, man. Like I mentioned, it's kind of a clunker. Yeah, you want these games to evaluate young players, and it's tough also when like some of these guys are coming in at off the bench and they don't really get reps all week to be a starter, and then like they're second, third stringer. So, yeah, like I would love to see more of Kyron Williams, but again, like maybe it's all about being healthy right now when you have the worst luck when it comes to injuries, and it just kind of like you think about where they were February 2022 to where they are December 2022. Like things change so fast, and I
Yeah.
think yesterday it was kind of like an eye opener, like how quickly the league changes. But then I talked to a guy like Nick Scott who uh, just became a first time dad. I think he has a son that was born a couple of days ago, and he's like, I love football, and yeah, it sucks, but you get to home to your family, and you're healthy, so you kind of think about it that way when you have very tough times on the field. But yeah, I know people want to win games, but at this point, uh, tank for number 33, right, the second round pick.
Yeah, and talking about like our final thoughts here in terms of this game is, I think one thing that, and I know I talked about this before, but I've been thinking about it since we started doing the show, and something that you talked about, and how some of these players, especially in preseason, they just want to get to their next contract. And I think that's what a lot of these players are, in terms of what they're trying to do, is trying to get, that pension. We don't think about those kind of things with players, who are, at the end of the bench, and, getting an opportunity now to play, you know, they're trying to show other teams that, hey, I'm a player in this league, and I want to make sure that you can see me, and I can work towards my next contract, whether it's with the Rams or someone else. And so for me, that's pretty much, as I know it was a tough loss to take, and this eliminates them. They're 4-10 now, but you got to keep an eye on some of these players, because as you talked about Nick Scott and his whole family dynamic, these players are human, and there's a they're working towards their career and what comes after football, and staying in football as a career.
Yeah, Vic, good point. Even a guy like Taylor Rapp, who has struggled a lot in coverage as a safety, but he's been making plays the last couple of weeks and interceptions. And sometimes when you're a playmaker and you could live with some of the, losses in coverage or run defense, whatever it is, but to get two interceptions like that, and this guy, I want to say he's about to be a free agent. I don't know if well, maybe I don't know. I really don't know, but I don't think he has a future with the Rams. He's just been struggling. Uh, but then again, the young guys haven't been taking his job. Like they gave him opportunities. Some of these safeties, like a Russ Yeast, and I think he had a good play to start the game. But then like you kind of get some growing pains, but that's what you want to get out the way when it comes to losing season, the growing pains, and maybe you're ready for next year.
Yeah. And then let's go ahead and get to our 12 pack of the game, as we finish off the show here. Who gets your 12 pack of the game?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm taking yours here, but I like the way you phrased it. He's been the punching bag. Cam Akers, we've been talking about him, and I know last week wasn't the best game, but even the couple weeks before that, he's been finding his stride, and we don't know what the future brings for him with the Rams. I still don't see it. Maybe he has a really good, strong performances for the next three games, and he really gets back on the good side of Sean McVay. But so far, he'd be taking the hits and just kind of playing through this shuffled offensive line. and create it on your own. Because remember, at the start of the year, he couldn't even create on his own because it was all about pointing the fingers. Like the offensive line doesn't do anything. The scheme sucks, and now it's like, okay, might as well do what you got to do, and he's doing that. So, Cam Akers, I don't know what they drink out there in Wisconsin. Oh, you know what I do? Miller Lights. So have yourself a couple tall cans of Miller Lights, Cam Akers, because you deserve that after taking a few punches, like you mentioned, Victor.
Yeah, mine. I'm gonna actually give. I know Jalen Ramsey like a nice modelo, just
There you go.
because one he talks to you, man. Like he gives you some good access. Even whether it's good or bad, he's there giving you some good quotes. So we're thankful for that here on House of Horns. And then the other thing, I mean, he's having fun. He hasn't missed a game, even with all the criticism this year. He came out, had a good game against the Packers. I know Devontae Adams isn't there anymore, but he took out the young rookie out of his game, Christian Watson, and he had a fumble recovery. He was great on run defense. So for me, I'm going to give him a nice modelo to Jalen Ramsey because he deserves it. He's been playing a lot better the last couple of games.
Yeah, and I know Jalen Ramsey kind of takes a while to kind of get going in interviews, but once he gets going, he really gives you some really thoughtful answers. And he did a bunch of one-on-ones yesterday, not just with the Rams beat report. Like he talks to people he recognizes, like he's all about kind of like trust. But there were just some random people going up to him yesterday. He was just in a good talkative move. I think he was the one person that was kind of in the mood like to reflect and like this is weird. Like they shouldn't have been in this season, but he wanted to discuss it and break it down. And for us reporters, he made our life easier. But I know it also helps when he has a good game, and he's an emotional player. But I like how he's straightforward. He tells you how it is, and I haven't been there long, but now I know how to work around that. So you know what you get. It's not like a surprise, and it's nothing personal too. And I'm not trying to get off topic, but you see things that happen in Tampa Bay with Giovanni Bernard. I don't like that, but you got to build relationships, and you can't take things personal. You kind of got to figure out both sides, and people got to understand that we got a job to do, and the players, just got to find that middle ground. And I think Jalen Ramsey has found
Exactly.
it, and he's a fiery guy. He's gonna come at you a couple times, but again, don't take it personal. Just find the middle ground.
Yeah, no, and that's great to hear, man, especially with what happened in Tampa Bay with Giovanni Bernard. So I love the fact that you guys have a really good relationship, as you talked about with the whole middle ground. You got to find that, but I'm glad that he's giving you guys access, and you guys are able to get some great quotes out of it. And so for that, he's my 12 pack of beer for Jalen Ramsey here. But
I like it.
as we close this off, Gilbert, let's go ahead and plug away, and then I'll show the viewers here, and also tell the listeners to make sure you check out our homage gear, so that way they can go ahead and help us out. But go ahead and take it away, Gilbert.
Yeah, again, if you want Rams gear, there you go. Victor has it. Broncos versus Rams. Actually, Patrick and SpongeBob. That is kind of the there's I guess the sponsors or the spokespeople for this Christmas Day game, December 25th. So Russell Wilson, I think he's gonna play this game against Baker Mayfield. So nice shirt there. I know you said it was comfortable, Victor.
It's really
Click on the
comfortable.
link here or on the description. You'll see the link there. Make it easier. So that will help us out again. Uh, also if you're a potential maybe sponsor and you're watching this show, help us out. We're trying to get this show bigger. But not just about that. I know it's a holiday season, and I'm just really thankful and grateful for the community we already started. I'm posting on the community section. People are engaging, giving us comments. So it's really cool to see us grow every single day with this channel here, even during a losing season. So it makes me wonder when they start winning, how much support. So you're joining the bandwagon now. We love you. During this trying times for House of Horns, at least for the Rams fans.
Right.
But we have a lot of content here on COMPAS on the Beat. We're gonna have our Christmas special. I forget, yeah, it should be out later today or tomorrow, but it depends on when you're watching this. And then also we're gonna jump right into the Broncos Rams preview show. So that's the quickness of a Monday Night Football. You try to put a bow on Monday Night Football, and then boom, you're doing the next game. So a lot of content out here.
Yeah, and make sure you're checking out his Gilbert's stories on the Orange County Register, Ellie Daily News. As he says, talk. Follow us wherever you can, whether it's on Twitter, on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your, any support helps. So we're very thankful, as you said, to everything that the subscribers were up to. I think 439, and so we're trying to get to 500, so that would really help. But just really thankful to the Rams community and their fans. They've been awesome. They've been supporting us, especially as you talked about, through a 4-10 season, coming off a Super Bowl. So that's it from me, Gilbert. Unless you have anything else, you can close us off here.
No, I'm ready. Like I told you, I've only had 90 minutes of sleep in the last 24 hours, so I'm ready to go to sleep. I'll stop wearing this hoodie. Maybe I look too much like a hipster, but it was nice to come back and get off the plane and see how sunny it is, and it's like almost 70 degrees out here in December. So I love LA. I'm glad to be back home. But on that note, ya nos vamos, pues vámonos.